Man, you think the comic books has an NPC problem? The NPCs in Star Wars are 50 times as weird.
Hello. I started this gangsta. Thanks I get. Hello. I started this gangsta. And it's the thanks I get. Hello.
Hey, if you haven't yet, would you please take a moment to subscribe to this channel? Thanks very much. Alright, hey, it's Comic Artist Pro Secrets. You're listening to Ethan Van Sciver, 25-year veteran of the comic book industry, great big Star Wars fan. Nice to be with you. Just woke up to, I'm on a backwards schedule. I'm working nights to draw Cyberfrog. I just woke up to this interesting article from Disney Star Wars is Dumb, which is a great website run by a fellow whose pseudonym is Ichibaka, so clearly he is a Star Wars Holiday Special fan, just like I am, an enthusiast, in fact. Look at this. Soylo novelist Mur Lafferty stirs up SJWs to harass Marvel editor that brought winter to Wendig. Great title. This guy's right on point. I started to see this happen today. People started to fill my inbox with messages going back and forth between very, very strange Star Wars fans, the types that are kind of tangentially involved with the Star Wars sex abuse scandal that I'm also documenting. And so a lot of these familiar names are popping up. Mur Lafferty is a new one to me. I wasn't sure who Mur Lafferty was, although that name was on one of the messages that was sent my way. So, look, when Brett Kavanaugh was being appointed to the Supreme Court, there were a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of leftists who kind of were losing their minds over it. That's fine. That's politics. You're allowed to do so. But one person completely flibberted their gibbert, and that was Chuck Wendig. Chuck Wendig flipped his lid over this and produced a series of tweets that were probably 2 steps beyond the pale, and that would be 1 step beyond his normal range of communication when it comes to politics. And finally, a week before, I should add, a week before this happened, he had been at New York City Comic Con and announced the release or impending release of a brand new Darth Vader series that he was going to be writing, plus another Star Wars project that was as yet unnamed. We don't know what that is. I guess it doesn't matter anymore. So Chuck Wendig was fully involved now as a Star Wars novelist of the Aftermath novels. He was going to be doing Marvel Comics Star Wars books, more of them. I don't know if he had done some before. Probably he had done some before. I don't know. I don't really care. I only know about these Darth Vader books. I've come to not really care about investigating Chuck Wendig's writing, having read a little bit of it, having been offered some samples of it. It's not for me. Nevertheless, he should be allowed to do whatever he wants, as long as he isn't cursing half of the fan base, which is what he did. So Marvel finally pulled the plug. After seeing all of the crazy tweets, the abusive tweets, and they really did grab the attention of a lot of mainstream media types. They fired Chuck Wendig. Now, Chuck Wendig, in response to this, he named the editor that fired him. Now, the only reason why one would do that is to alert other people as to the identity of this editor, this person, and invite people to harass, to confront, do anything like that. That's the only real reason to do something like that. You just say Marvel editorial fired me, and that should be it. But to actually name a name was an ominous and threatening thing. I don't usually talk about my editors. I don't name them by name because fans don't know them and they don't really need to know them. You say Marvel, you say DC Comics editorial, and one thinks Jim Lee, Dan DiDio, and that's really all they need to think. They don't need to think about the people who are working beneath Dan DiDio and Jim Lee. That's just not their business. So this was an ominous and, quite frankly, creepy thing. So I'm going to read this article here, and I'll expound a little bit more. This is a very interesting thing. Something is being exposed here in the sci-fi novelist writing world that is connected to these weirdo NPCs. They've unionized. I don't know if people are aware of this, but they've actually unionized. When Chuck Wendig was fired from Marvel, he made a point of publicly waiving the name of the editor who fired him on Twitter in an effort to give his fellow drones in the collective a target to harass. Very good language, well written, Ichibaka. According to The Hollywood Reporter, in a series of tweets, Wendig, who is working on both the 5-issue Shadow of Vader miniseries and an additional, currently unannounced Star Wars series for the publisher, revealed he had been fired by Marvel in the middle of his work on the titles because, in his words, quote, of the negativity and vulgarity that my tweets bring. Boy, I mean, that was, he said, and then he goes, seriously, that's what Mark Paniccia, the editor, said. It was too much vulgarity, too much negativity on my part. We've studied this a couple of times, just the weirdness that, initially he's not willing to just take responsibility. Vulgarity that his tweets bring, meaning other people attack him with negativity and vulgarity for what his tweets say. But then he comes around and Mark Paniccia, who he names, I mean, that's really weird, says it was too much vulgarity, too much negativity on my part. So he's taking responsibility, or he's saying that Mark Paniccia is assigning him responsibility. This is not the way an adult speaks. We pointed that as well. Chuck Wendig, he writes and speaks like a 14-year-old girl. He sounds like a Disney tween. It is really strange. So yeah, look at this. Good illustration from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. Either version, the original or this remake here from the 1970s. Chuck Wendig helpfully points out Mark Paniccia for his fellow drones while sporting the collective's mandatory soy face. Yeah, that's excellent. Of course, if you have not been taken over by the body snatchers, the replacement drones recognize you as still human and an individual, and they point at you and shriek. An illustration from modern times. Readers may remember author Mur Lafferty, also known as Mighty Mur, who wrote the novelization for Soylo, a Star Wars story. Mighty Mur also believes that Christians treat people like animals. That's nice. Here's what Mighty Mur had to say about the firing of Chuck Wendig. All right, so this was back in October. This is bullshit right here. Well, show me the polite woman who was instrumental in getting the vote. Show me the calm meeting where black people sat down and convinced the government that they should be treated as equals. Politeness can be easily ignored, and it is ignored. So basically, this was the thing that Democrats were saying. Not Democrats. This is the thing that far leftists were saying. We really do have to make an effort to separate far extremist left-wingers from just regular Democrats. I really want to make an effort to do that because I miss liberals. I miss normal liberals. People who just disagree with me, but who are not insane and violent and looking to cause trouble in society. I miss those people who believe in free speech and believe gays have the right to marry, obviously, and equal rights for everyone. I miss those people. These people are different. This is kind of a new breed. And this person is saying, hey, exactly what Chuck Wendig was saying civility is no longer effective. And what does that mean? Incivility. What is incivility? What does that entail? Mur voted again. They will talk about things when they are good and ready, and they're going to do their damnedest to never be ready, either because we don't care enough or our tone is too forceful. We can't win until we force them to listen to us. This is like this is crazy. Yeah, this is So yeah, I'm mad as hell at Marvel right now because they're doing their part to keep the status quo of the swamp fire that is the USA by punishing someone for speaking up. Yeah. Well, look, he got fired for telling 50% of his readership to eat a shit-covered boot. I'm sorry, this is too funny. These people are hilarious. Also, and then here we go, on with Trump, Kavanaugh, disgusting vulgarity. And I like The Last Jedi. All right, so we've identified who you are, and here's a picture of a dog. That's nice. And then again, keep going. I'm angry. And I have deadlines, so head down for a bit. Marvel is run by cowards. Actually, I don't think so. I think Marvel may be run by cowards, but there are a few people in there who are still adults and who made an adult decision that is and making an adult decision is hard. It comes with consequences, and the consequences sometimes are that when you are the only adult in the room that is being run by insane children, they're going to consequence you and act like lunatics and cause you some trouble. So Marvel's run by cowards. Chuck Wendig is awesome. True, maybe true. He's hilarious. And here is a dog. All right. So here's the person that we're blue hair, problem spectacles, kind of. All right, very good, Mur. So it should come as no surprise the mighty Mur is giving Chuck Wendig an opportunity to revise history on her YouTube channel. Oh, I didn't know this. People sent me this interview here. Ditch Diggers. They said, listen to this. This is Chuck Wendig talking about why he was fired. And maybe you want to do a video. Now, I have to say something. My videos on Chuck Wendig don't get views. I mean, if you're listening to this now, thank you so much. I appreciate you for being a loyal listener of Comic Artist Pro Secrets. They're not my more funny videos, I don't think. They're more commentary. This is actual insight. This is a peek into what's going on in the culture, in the pop culture. When I talk about pop culture having been infested by far left wingers who have unionized, who look out for each other, who punish dissent, this is all a part of that. This is a big part of that. And so, people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear me make fun of Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy, and that's cool. But I still, like my channel, I have a responsibility, it seems like, to report on this because it's a big part of the culture war. I mean, it's a major part of the culture war that's laid bare. The Chuck Wendig firing should not have been this big of a deal. He should have said, all right, I'm either going to watch my mouth next time and apologize, or I'm not, and I'm going to go do this over here. I'm going to go work on a different project and speak my mind even more. Those are your two choices. Those are your two choices when you've been let go for being kind of a big mouth. You have two choices. You can either close your mouth and try to get work in the mainstream again, which has standards and requires you to behave yourself, or you can say, well, I'm going to talk even more now because I'm free. As I said then, with no power comes no responsibility, and that's the best thing for Chuck Wendig. No power in Star Wars or at Marvel, and then feel free to be irresponsible. I think that's the best thing for him, and he'll still make some money. He'll still do good, I think. He clearly has supporters. So anyway, put on this channel here on this for an interview. I have not listened to this yet. I guess I'm gonna have to. But this is the thing. These videos need to be made. We need to talk about this. It's vitally important. All right, so Chuck Wendig gets an opportunity to revise history on this channel and work their fellow drones in the collective into a frenzy. That's why they're acting up right now. That's why this is happening, because some NPCs. First of all, Mighty Mur here, who is mighty colorful, put Chuck Wendig on her channel to talk about what happened and to agitate, and it looks like it worked. The NPCs are kind of acting nutty again, and the funniest thing is, you'll see in a minute. Okay, as we know, they'll refer to their harassment as activism. That's absolutely true. They're going to harass poor Mark Paniccia and call it activism. That'll teach him. He shouldn't have done this, apparently. Chuck talks about how angry Mark was. He says he's been fired from Marvel, but not from writing Star Wars novels. That's probably all true. He claims someone higher up in Lucasfilm approved of his Twitter antics. Yeah, I would say Pablo Hidalgo, any of those guys. Ryan Johnson, maybe even Kathleen Kennedy approved of his Twitter antics. Those people all agree with him. It's only fun and games until somebody says no. Until an adult steps up and says no. He doesn't mention anyone specifically, but does mention #Gamergate and blames Comicsgate for the events. Well, if that's true, you're welcome, everyone. I don't think Comicsgate is empowered to do this kind of a thing. When he said this is a great big win for Comicsgate, I was stunned by that. I said, well, we didn't do anything here. At this point, if you're anything other than a far leftist in pop culture, you feel like you have very little power and nobody's listening to your voice. So we sit back and take this abuse. We take the abuse of Chuck Wendig and the thousands of people within the pop culture who behave like Chuck Wendig in an abusive way, and we just take it. It's our job to just take it. So to actually see him get punished for it was a great moment for Comicsgate, but it wasn't a victory for us. I don't think we did anything. It was more like, and I said this at the time, it was more like living in a lawless society where people just run around and murder and abuse and rape and pillage, and the police don't do anything, and you just wonder if your life is worth anything and if there is justice in the world. And then finally the police kick in the door and start arresting people, and you finally feel you're happy. You're like, maybe everything's okay. Maybe there is justice in the world. That's kind of how comic skaters, and I think all normal people, felt when Chuck Wendig got fired. It's like, okay, he's not. Lucasfilm or Marvel is not going to allow him to abuse us in this way every single day on Twitter. That's reassuring. That was really reassuring. All right. Oh, and he imagines Nazis. Well, they all do. As a result, drones will now commence harassment of Marvel editor Mark Paniccia, and they will on behalf of Chuck Wendig. So here is Boxerless Bosk. This dude is a clown and a half. He tried to come after me. These people were hilarious. Like back in June, when I came out critical of a young lady who worked at Lucasfilm who took a picture of herself drinking from a Fanboy Tears mug. And I was new to the world of Lucasfilm and Star Wars. I didn't know who all of these players were. I was coming in and meeting all these people. So I said, somebody at Lucasfilm should not have that mug. She should be fired. She should be fired for posting that on social media. That's a ridiculous thing to do, to drink from a mug that says Fanboy Tears when fanboys are your customers. That's an odd thing, and she should be fired. Well, they came after me. Boxerless Box did. This guy is brainless. I had fun with him. I think he blocked me, though. I'm not really sure. Listen to this. Hear Chuck Wendig talk about angry Mark Paniccia. Talk about angry Mark Paniccia was at Garbage Chair. Him for his Kavanaugh condemning tweets. Discover Paniccia tried to brush it off by trying to get Wendig to lie about being busy. Now look me in the eye and tell me Mark deserves a job editing at Marvel. He does deserve a job editing at Marvel. By the way, this is one thing that they will do at Marvel or anywhere. At DC, they'll just say, look, we have to let you go. Appreciate it if you just keep cool. They told this to Chelsea Kane. Gotta let you go. We're not going to publish this, so we'd appreciate it if you, keep it cool and don't cause a big problem for us. We don't need any PR drama on social media. Would you please? You can say this, you can say that. Chelsea Kane decided not to do that. She blasted Marvel Comics, and Chuck Wendig is going to blast him too. So I'm not really sure what this is, but probably just Mark Paniccia said, in order to not embarrass you, it'd be great if you just said, you know what, I'm too busy to do these Darth Vader books. So I left. I quit. That's probably what happened there. Now this is my tweet from today. These got sent my way. I made this little meme here. I'm sorry. This is how I feel. Here's Boxerless Bosk. I'm not sure it's caving to a hate mob. There's no hate mob. It's the other way around. Or Mark just being part of said hate mob himself. Does this interview shed any light on that? And here's this person, this very strange person, Brian Larson. It doesn't. But given Mark follows EVS, he doesn't quite get the benefit of the doubt. Apparently, Mark Paniccia still follows me on Twitter. I don't know Mark Paniccia. I don't think I know him. He might come up to me and say, "No, we've known each other for years." I'm like that. Your Uncle Ethan's like that. I don't remember people. So I might have met him at some point. I might have known him for years. I don't really know. But in any case, yeah, it turns out that he follows me on Twitter. Now, this is probably kind of a vestigial Twitter following, as it were, meaning that at one point we all had tails as human beings, and some people still have vestigial tails. This is, at one point, every editor followed me on Twitter. Until everyone announced that I was toxic for voting for Trump. And then most professionals, I think, not most of them, I don't know, a bunch of them fell off. A bunch of them unfollowed me on Twitter. The weirder they were, the further left they were, or if they succumbed to the pressure of the mob and saying, hey, if you're following Ethan Van Sciver, you're following Comicsgate, and Comicsgate is harassment, etc., etc. There's no reason to have to put up with that. Most normal people might just say, I'm going to spare myself the harassment of the NPC Twitter mob by just unfollowing Ethan Van Sciver, and nothing was lost. Correct. That is the correct thing to do. Why is Mark Paniccia still following me? I don't know. Good for him, I guess. I don't know what his politics are. I've never really spoken to him. And I don't know if he's just forgotten and doesn't really pay attention to Twitter. That's more likely. Nevertheless, we have these here. So Marvel needs to remove Mark Paniccia from the Star Wars line now. Now, in all caps. Here it comes. And then he goes on to talk about he's listening to the latest Ditch Diggers. How big is that show? Is that show big? And this is going to happen. All of these NPCs are going to demand, because Chuck Wendig is so incredibly irresponsible, so incredibly vindictive, that he actually called out the editors. Now, when I was fired from Marvel back in 2003, the editorial team of New X-Men at the time when I was hired, it changed over, did some, lied to me, pushed me around, did all kinds of weirdo stuff. I never named them by name, and I still don't think I've named them by name. I mean, you can easily find out. You could just look at those books and find out who the editors were. But when I talked about what happened to me initially, I don't think I named them by name, and I wouldn't do that. I'm not calling for these people to be found and be harassed. In point of fact, everything's cool, and we've spoken about it since. But that is a very odd thing to say. This particular individual within Marvel Comics is the one that did this to me. He couldn't have done it without Marvel Comics behind him, allowing him to do this. So it wasn't just one individual. And then I say this is common sense. These Star Wars weirdos still don't understand why Marvel fired Chuck Wendig. They think it was my hidden hand. So in other words, I talked to Mark Paniccia. I'm the one who said, you should fire Chuck Wendig. Like I ever could or would do something like that. But these people have big imaginations. They're paranoid. And this is what they do. I mean, this is an insight into how NPCs do that. They do have that kind of power. They do communicate with each other that way. They do actually have a little collective society where they talk to the people at Marvel and say, hey, don't hire this guy, fire this guy. And there is response. So, but anyway, this is it. Now they're calling for the editor's job. Marvel, stop hiring SJWs. It's as simple as that. This is what you get when you hire SJWs. You get this. They act like monkeys on their social media. They tell people to eat boots covered in shit. Then you have to do what you have to do. You have to fire them. And in response for that, they come after you with everything they've got to get their petty, stupid revenge. They can't just be adults and take responsibility. No, of course not. Yeah, that would be embarrassing. So, again, how many more videos do I have to make explaining it to these virgins? That's me. This is another one. I don't, here are Chuck Wendig's tweets that essentially got him fired. Can you imagine employing this guy with a blue check mark and 100,000 subscribers? Can you imagine? Or followers. Can you imagine employing this guy and he's putting this stuff out into the world, and people like James Woods and Tucker Carlson and so on and so forth, Jonah Goldberg, they're finding this, retweeting it out there, Ben Shapiro. It's unpleasant. It's inconvenient to have to tolerate this. So this is the thing. Now, here's the... All right. Yeah, Chuck Wendig fans won't stop harassing his former Marvel editor. I need to bring all this poisonous behavior to light so Wendig can't get away with this mob tactics degeneracy, and that's what I'm doing now. But Ichibaka here thinks that it's pointless because they will never learn, and they might never learn. But again, that won't stop us from speaking the truth. Do not hire SJWs. Don't do it. Don't hire these people who have convinced themselves that civility is no longer something that works. It's no longer rational. Don't hire people like you can't hire people like that, because this is what you get. This is what you get. And in response to this, of course, all we can do is watch and laugh. I don't think it has any effect on our lives at all, but it is amusing to see these people actually come out of their vampire castles, and I mean, Screech. Is that what it is? Or would I put it that way, or would I say shining the light on vampires and making them screech? I think that's better, because it is, they're smoking, and they're evaporating in the sun, I guess. But anyway, yeah. And, I mean, take this to heart. If you are an employer, do not hire SJWs. This is what they will do to your business. Okay? All right. Thanks a lot.
Hey, want to follow me on Twitter? Okay, cool. I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. Talk to you there.
Show your friends you support independent comics while showing the world who you back in the fight against the swarm with the brand new Cyberfrog t-shirt from Crypto Fashion and Comic Artist Pro Secret. Sizes come in small to 5XL, and take your choice of colors between navy blue, white, and black. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and order the Fandom Menace, Go Get Daddy's Belt, Tico, and Soylo t-shirts as well. Link is below in the description. You're going to look great. People love these shirts. They fit wonderfully. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video and want to become part of this community, subscribe to this channel by clicking the Laughing Man face logo right on your screen. Ring the bell for notifications as well. You'll never miss a live chat. And stay tuned, another video by Comic Artist Pro Secrets is coming right up.